I'm Jim Mohr. I'm a principal security analyst, and I'm in the healthcare industry. The LogRhythm SIEM. My primary use case is to alert to any anomalies that may bear security relevance as far as some of the industry regulations that apply to healthcare, as well as payment card industry. Most valuable features for our organization is the centralized pane of glass for us to go through and triage and see everything going on in our environment. We're a mature organization. We have a lot of tools and a lot of different implementations, and to go through all those dashboards, monitoring everything is just not possible. So we centralize everything, and then we get it come into the web console, and we're able to triage and respond quickly to anything that is important. We do use many of the capabilities of the LogRhythm. We, of course, collect from our perimeter devices and our servers, as well as some of our security-specific systems. We'll drink from APIs. We'll also implement file integrity monitoring in our cardholder data environment. So we use a lot of different features available within LogRhythm. It makes it possible to stay aware of much more of what's going on. We get an overview, a macro view that we can zoom in on, as opposed to prior to that we had individual panes of glass. You might be stuck in the firewall interface for half a day, whereas something going on is not getting addressed that we really should probably investigate. And so that's our biggest benefit. We're not using any of the built-in playbooks. We are about to go up to version 7.4 once it becomes available. We were not an early adopter because of our size. Well, we have a product that is a security orchestration and response tool, Demisto, and I think that from the standpoint of automation and response, perhaps the first version of the playbooks is not going to compare to the product that we have that's a standalone for that purpose. However, from a price point, it's very attractive, and I think that as it matures, we'll look at probably moving over onto the LogRhythm playbooks if it can support the kind of things that we're leveraging out of this other product, and it looks like that's their plan. So spam review, it was the same as what was brought up in one of the talking sessions. Our users will tend to forward every email they don't like just to be safe, to spam review. And it takes our analysts then a ton of time to go through. So we have leveraged this to go and read from the mailbox that those spam emails all get forwarded to, and then to look and analyze the hashes of any files. They'll hash them, or the links in the file, or the sender, or anything that looks funny. And it'll do all the things that an analyst will do and make its determinations, and then we'll see from there if we have anything to follow up on. In LogRhythm, stability is very good. We're pleased with it. However, we have a high rate of logs for, at least I think it is. We approach 750 million logs on a daily basis is about our average. And if anything stops working or service needs to be restarted, it will rapidly vary itself. We don't have too many problems with anything like that. It's just from time to time, if something's not available, a resource it needs, things will begin to back up, and then it's kind of exciting trying to recover. Scalability is good. We had 23 systems, not counting the collectors, that are big LogRhythm servers, data processors and indexers, net monitors, web consoles, PMs. We have in 2 different data centers. We find that scaling for volume is very good. Scaling for like the flip over in a disaster recovery situation, we don't use Microsoft DNS, we use Infoblocks, and the DR utility up to this point did not incorporate that product line and what was necessary, but they did take it back, and that's what I like about how responsive they were. They didn't charge us the PS hours for all the time that we spent when it didn't work. They went back, they worked with Infoblocks, they handed off a technical document that I can work with my DNS guys back there, and then reschedule the hours with PS. So it's really, I like the way that they addressed it. They made it like we're important. I know we're one of many, but they took that back and they expanded their disaster recovery capability based on the fact that that's what we wanted. Oh, tech support's good. We generate a lot of tickets, anything from log sometimes the vendors will enrich their logging, but then that changes the ability of the tool to parse it. And so then we'll notice that a log's not parsing and everything's going to the catch-all rule. We'll open up a ticket. They'll take care of that pretty timely. As well as any time that we have a high issue, something that's affecting our availability and visibility into our network, they're very responsive. I was back in 2014, so it was, I was assisting someone else whose primary function was to implement it, and it was, I don't know, several full versions back. I think it was version 6 or 5 or something like that. I don't know what it was. I think your awareness of LogRhythm grows over time. You know, there's certainly ways to do things that are advisable, that you can get away with, you know, rules that are not tuned too well when you're on a certain scale. Once you get big, no technology is going to really handle inefficient rules and log processing policies that are beyond what you need, right? So I think that, you know, we probably had a normal growth path and knowledge curve as far compared to others where we first got it, we tried to do too much, turned on a bunch of rules, didn't know how to tune them. But I think that, you know, right now we have a solid implementation. We have 130, 150 alarm rules running. We're not maxing out resources. Everything is running really well from a reliability standpoint and availability from the product. We do wish that the web console would go back a little bit further with its look in time. However, it is fortunate that they've embraced some of the other stand alongside technologies like Kibana and Elk Stack, where we can take a look at the parse data and trend back over time. Our ability to respond quickly, or our mean time to detect, has dropped significantly. There's some things that we see now that we never would have seen. For example, maybe a domain administrator adding an account to a server's admin group that goes against process and policy, but they're doing it to troubleshoot something or whatever. We have never seen that before because just the amount of logs that come out of those Microsoft security logs and the fact that we've got 6,000 servers in our environment. But the other things that we would have seen, we still see them faster. You know, when we see something that from the Palo firewalls that verdict changed, it passed something through, but now it says it's malicious, an attachment on an email or something, we can take action now far faster, whereas before we might have got the indication out of our antivirus tool when somebody tried to double click the attachment. There's two that I can think of off the top of my head. One is service protection. So for example, to compare to the antivirus product, if I'm an admin on a server, I can't uninstall the antivirus product unless I have the administrator password for the antivirus, not the domain administrator passwords. And in the same way, these guys that are out there doing upgrades in the middle of the night and stuff, they don't know why anything's working, but the first thing they do is they want to peel off all the security products because they think that's interfering, right? And so then all of a sudden I'll have a server that is no longer even has the LogRhythm agent on it. I'm trying to figure out who uninstalled this and you know, whatever. It gets into a situation where I just go, well, why is that possible? You know, products like semantic antivirus or traps or something, I couldn't uninstall it from my workstation even if I'm a domain admin. I got to have that admin password for the product. And I think that should be baked into the LogRhythm agent so that we have more stability over our deployment. And the second thing that I would like is, you know, like I said, our logging level is about 750 million logs a day, and but sometimes we'll go 850 or 1.2 billion logs a day, sometimes maybe 680. And so what in my environment changed? You know, I don't have the ability really, with the tools they give me, to profile the systems very well in the log sources, except for running reports, which I can look at in kind of the Crystal Reports interface, or I can export it to a big giant PDF or a spreadsheet. But then I'm looking, well, last month the Exchange servers kicked out this many logs, and it's a little bit more, but where'd the rest of it go? And you know, if I go from 750 million logs average in a day to 850, it might not just be a delta of 100,000 logs increase, it could be 150 because something else might not have generated the same amount of logs. So for the ability for me to be able to profile a system and say what's behaving normally and abnormally, you know, you can do some of that with AI rules, and we've played a little bit with that in the past, but it would be better if it was something akin to what they're doing with UEBA, where I can say, you know, this server kicked out 80 million logs yesterday, and that's not normal for it. I'd like to see what was going on with that box. That would some way where my mean time to detect which servers went through a significant variance in what they typically do would be very helpful for me on a lot of days. LogRhythm gives us ability to automate. We do have some smart response plugins that we're using. Unfortunately, with healthcare, you end up using more contextual smart response plugins than you do actionable ones. I can't go and shut down a system because unless I have absolute 100% confidence in the fact that it's not actually touching a person, because a biomed is a computerized medical device that connects to a person. So in our environment with half dozen hospitals, 130 clinics, we can't just go around shutting things down or even necessarily quarantining them, because it might be kind of a client server type of situation where we can't interrupt this if it's maybe they're giving a radiation treatment to someone. We have a lot of different enclaves and things, but LogRhythm allows me to see things that I may want to take action on via a human resource. So I can send a desktop tech out there to make sure that whatever it is I'm concerned about is not in fact taking place. If I had to rate LogRhythm, I would say I'd give it an 8 out of 10. I think that I like the direction that they're going as a company. I like their philosophy and their milestones that they kind of lay out at these conferences. I do like them also from a product standpoint, because some of the competitors are just not, they're price prohibitive, as far as volume, especially when you look at somebody like Splunk. Small shops can afford Splunk, but big shops, you got to really need Splunk to be able to afford it. The same with QRadar. That's what we had previously where we were at, and they just became price prohibitive. So I like LogRhythm, the full package. I like where they're going with Network Monitor. I like I like the UBA stuff. We're not currently using that. I like the playbook integration. It seems like they're really thoughtfully maturing their product line, and so I think that, and that gives me confidence for even if I have a pain point now, that they're going to address that going forward.